What would you do if your family treated you like a live-in chef for your lazy, 18-year-old brother? In today's story, one woman's solution was a masterclass in how to handle it. I'm 20 years old, and for the holidays, I decided to stay with my family. I thought it would be a nice, relaxing time, but I quickly forgot that whenever I'm home, my role inexplicably shifts from daughter and sister to unpaid housekeeper. Now, don't get me wrong, I have no problem with chores. I do my part. If I see the dishwasher is full, I'll empty it without being asked. If I cook a meal, I clean up the kitchen afterward. If I make a mess, I take responsibility and clean it up myself. It's a basic principle of sharing a living space, but that principle seemed to apply only to me. My little brother, Leo, operated under a completely different set of rules. If Leo made a mess, he'd just leave it, and then he'd make me clean it up. My protests were useless. If I refused and told him to handle his own mess, he'd immediately run to our parents. They would always take his side, nagging and bugging me relentlessly until, just for the sake of peace, I'd give in and clean up after my perfectly capable, adult brother. As one commenter pointed out, I initially read this story and thought the brother must be 5 or 6 years old. But no, the text clearly states he is 18. 18. Thank goodness the protagonist eventually got out of there. His entitlement wasn't limited to messes. Leo also expected me to be his personal cook. He would waltz into the kitchen, pull a box of brownie mix from the pantry, and just say, "Make this," not ask, but command. "Sure," I'd reply, trying to be reasonable. "I can make it, but you have to help." His response was always a new level of audacity. He'd get genuinely angry and snap back. I helped by taking out the box. At that moment, Leo had no idea that his demand for brownies, and his lazy refusal to help, had just sealed the fate of every meal he'd ask for from that point on. When I'd refuse his demands or tell him to try making it himself, he would throw a full-blown tantrum, just like a toddler, and go straight to our parents. The cycle was exhausting. I got so frustrated going back and forth, arguing about why he couldn't make something for himself or just ask our parents to do it. I was done arguing. So, I changed my strategy. From then on, when he asked me to make something, I'd agree, but I started adding a special, personal touch to every single dish. Coincidentally, Leo hates a ton of the ingredients that I absolutely love to eat. So when he demanded brownies and once again refused to lift a finger, I made them. And I generously mixed in a healthy portion of walnuts. The rich, chocolatey aroma filled the house. Leo came wandering into the kitchen, a greedy look on his face. He peered into the pan, and his expression soured instantly. "What are those?" he snarled, pointing at the chunks of nuts dotting the surface. He got genuinely mad, telling me he hated nuts and that I'd ruined them, that he couldn't eat them anymore. I just looked at him, my face a perfect mask of indifference, and said, "Too bad. Next time, make them yourself. Or, you could help me and then you'd get a say in what goes in." I honestly thought he might learn his lesson. That maybe, just maybe, he'd realize that a little bit of help would get him the food he actually wanted. But I was wrong. The entitlement ran deep. He kept asking me to cook for him, and I just kept putting ingredients in that I knew he hated. Pasta with extra mushrooms he despises. Stir fry with the spicy chili flakes he can't stand. Every meal became a quiet act of rebellion. This is a classic case of malicious compliance, and it's brilliant. As one person commented, the brother is a legal adult and more than old enough to handle making a box of brownie mix. He was way past the point where he needed to learn the simple lesson that if you want something done a certain way, you should do it yourself. Finally, after a week of my culinary sabotage, Leo completely lost it. He stormed into the living room where I was reading and announced that he was officially on a hunger strike. "I'm not eating anything," he declared. "Not if you keep making food with stuff I don't like." I didn't even look up from my book. I just shrugged and said, "Then make your own food." Of course, he ran straight to our parents. A few minutes later, they came to me, not to reprimand Leo, but to reprimand me. Just stop being an asshole and make food for him, they told me, their tone dripping with disappointment. This reveals the family's fatal flaw, a complete inability to hold Leo accountable, a dynamic that would inevitably push me further and further away. While some might argue that you just don't mess with someone's food, the context here is key. I wasn't poisoning him. I was just cooking to my own tastes. As another commenter put it, Leo is an entitled little brat who should be more than capable of making food for himself at his age. I knew what was in the food, and so did he. He just chose not to eat it. Thankfully, it was my last day at home. I was packing my bags when they confronted me. I just looked them both in the eye and said, "If you're so concerned about him eating, then you can make his food for him." Then I picked up my bag and left. Now, my parents are upset with me, and my brother is furious. For a little while, I wondered if I had been too petty, but the more I think about it, the more I realize that my petty actions were just a reaction to a much bigger problem. They created a situation where my 18-year-old brother behaves like a child and expected me to be his caretaker. A wise commenter shared a long story about their own family, where their parents enabled their younger sister in the exact same way. That sister is now 22, still lives at home, and is so lazy and irresponsible that she let her cat's kittens use the living room as a toilet, leaving her older sibling to clean it up. Their final warning is what really sticks with me: if my parents don't make my brother grow up now, they'll end up with one son who doesn't care about anyone but himself, and a daughter who refuses to ever set foot in their house again. Ultimately, this story teaches a powerful lesson: you can't force someone to respect you, but you can refuse to be disrespected. By setting a firm, albeit petty, boundary, I forced my family to confront the consequences of their own making. So, what do you think? Was my nutty revenge the perfect solution? Or should I have handled my entitled brother and enabling parents differently? Let us know in the comments below.